I texted Mother. Oh yeah, she's here.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Sorry for the delay. There were a couple of guests at my place. We'll just start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Nara Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So, Hare Krishna, thank you so much for joining in. So, we had completed till shloka number 10 yesterday. So, if you see in this, if you see in this Canto 3, there were certain events that were led to Vidura's departure from the palace. And Shukdev Goswami talks about Vidura's inquiries, placed before Maitre Rishi. And in the second shloka, surprisingly, renunciation, of a transcendental house. Because if you see, Krishna's presence in the heart of a devotee is more powerful than his presence in the deity and the holy places. So any place that pleases the Lord is non-different from Vrindavan. So devotees will not give up service because of some discomfort or some geographical locations. Okay, somebody has to move from India to some part of the world or any material things. So when Krishna was accessible so far, has been changed. So Vidura left that place and sought Krishna in the association of devotees, but not in Dwarka also. He went, so in the association of devotees, when we say that, there should be a readiness to be detached from any place at any situation. So when you say, I want to make decisions in Krishna consciousness, so in which situation is more favorable to me to access Krishna more? We think in those terms. So, that this is the only practical way where I can practice Krishna conscious. No, no. Body likes to change this location at the very fag end of the life also. Right? So, if you see many of our sannyasis, they didn't change their place. Like His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Swami Maharaj, he did not change his place. Wherever he was, he left his body over there in a Krishna conscious way. So, Maharaj Parikshit was very eager to hear about, Vidur and Maitreya conversation. And that actually, Parikshit Maharaj is eager to hear, please Shukdev Goswami. So in every canto, if you see, Parikshit Maharaj is indicating that he's eager to hear. And eagerness is that key actually. So even, if you see in the fourth shloka also is saying that, what are the characteristics of an ideal question? So there should be the caliber of a person involved. It decides that quality of the discussion. For example, uh, uh, in a business circle, if you see, businessmen are very highly purposeful. Only to make money, are we asking ourselves, is this movement of mine is bringing me closer to Krishna? So then Shukdev Goswami is explaining or explains this misguided consciousness of Dhritarashtra and his sons. And then he says that because Dhritarashtra was bereft of all piety, he did not take Krishna's words very seriously. So until unless somebody has that sufficient piety, or sukruti, you can say, is there, one cannot take the instructions of a devotee or Krishna's words also, in fact, very seriously. So, um, you know, mm, mm, in Krishna Karnamrita also, this nectar of those with piety, it appears to those who are actually devoid of piety. So Krishna Katha, will be very, very much nectarian for those who have, attained enough of Sukruti or piety. So, of course, piety is a very dynamic concept. It has to be, continuously accumulated. If you don't regularly, cut your nails or, if you don't regularly cut your nails or, men don't shave, then there is hair start growing. So for us, I remember once somebody was saying that Mangala Arti is the regular shaving for the anarthas in the past. So the more Mangala Artis you'll attend, the more of the anarthas are, shaved off. The past anarthas are shaved off. So now from the 10th shloka onwards, Vidura starts advising. Just give me 1 minute, okay? I just give me 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Yeah. So from the 10th shloka onwards, Vidura starts advising to Dhritarashtra. So because now Dhritarashtra will invite Vidura for consultation. So let's see what Vidura has to say. I'll just share the screen with you all. Just give me 1 minute. Was it this? Yeah, it was this only. Yeah, but we were at the 10th shloka. Yeah, he says that Yado pahuto bhavan pravishto mantraya pushtikila purvajena ataha tanmatra drusha variyan yanmitrono vaidurikam vadanti. So when Vidura was, okay, sorry, I'm just ask somebody else to read. Piety means pious acts. Whatever pious acts you do, that's called piety. Sushil Prabhu is there. Sushil Prabhu, please do the honors of reading.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Translation: when Vidura was invited by his elder brother Dhritarashtra for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which are exactly to the point. His advice is well known, and instructions by Vidura are approved by expert ministers of state. Purport: political suggestions by Vidura are known as expert, just as in the modern times, Pandita Chanakya is considered the authority in good counsel in both political and moral instruction. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So then ahead he says that Vidura is saying that Ajata Shatro Pratiyachadayam Titikshato Duravaishaham Vagaha Sahanujo Yatra Vrukodarahi Shwasan Doshayatvam Alam Bibheshi. Sushil Prabhu, please read the translation.
Translation: Vidura said, "You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthira, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold suffering due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him."
Yeah. So he is advising that return, their, share to them. Who has tolerated so many of your offenses right from their childhood. And that is why you are very much afraid of Bhima, because Bhima was poisoned once when he was small. So that's how. So then ahead he says that Parthastu Devo Bhagavan Mukundo Grihitavan Sakshiti Devah Asate Swapurayam Yadu Devo Vinirjita Sheshanu Nru Devah. Yeah, Lakshminarayan, please do the honors of reading this shloka and purport both. Translation and
Hare
purport.
Krishna Mataji. Translation: Lord Krishna, the Supreme, the Personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings, the princes of the Yadu dynasty, who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their Lord. Purport: Vidura gave Dhritarashtra very good counsel regarding political alliance with the sons of Pritha, the Pandavas. The first thing he said was that Lord Krishna was intimately related with them as their cousin. Because Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is worshipable by all Brahmanas and demigods who are the controllers of the universal affairs. Besides that, Lord Krishna and his family members, the royal order of the Yadu dynasty, were the conquerors of all kings of the world. The Kshatriyas used to fight the kings of various dominions and kidnap their beautiful princess daughters after conquering their relatives. This system was laudable because the Kshatriyas and the princes would be married only on the basis of chivalry of the conquering Kshatriya. All the young princes of the Yadu dynasty married the daughters of other kings in this way by chivalrous force, and thus they were conquerors of all the kings of the world. Vidura wanted to impress upon his elder brother that fighting with the Pandavas was fraught with many dangers because they were supported by Lord Krishna, who had conquered even in his childhood demons like Kamsa and Jarasandha and demigods like Brahma and Indra. Therefore, all universal power was behind the Pandavas. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, Dhritarashtra may argue that, my son Duryodhana will oppose this. So then, what is Vidura advising? Sa esha dosha purushadvid aste grihan pravishtoyam apataya mataya pushnasi Kṛṣṇa dvimukho gat Shri Satyajasvam Kula Kaushalyaya. So he says that Matangi Mataji, are you in a position to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Please read the translation and purport both.
Yes. Dandavats Pranam to all of you. Translation. You are mentioning offense personified, Duryodhana, as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus mentioning a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. Purport. A good son is called apatya, one who does not allow his father to fall down. The son can protect the father's soul when the father is dead by offering sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This system is still prevalent in India. After the death of his father, a son goes to offer sacrifices at the lotus feet of Vishnu at Gaya and thus delivers the father's soul if the father is fallen. But if the son is already an enemy of Vishnu, how, in such an inimical mood, can he offer sacrifice unto Lord Vishnu's lotus feet? Lord Krishna is directly the personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and Duryodhana was inimical to him. He would therefore be unable to protect his father Dhritarashtra after his death. He himself was to fall down because of his faithlessness towards Vishnu. How then could he protect his father? Vidura advised Dhritarashtra to get rid of such an unworthy son as Duryodhana as soon as possible if he was at all anxious to see the good of his family. According to the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandita, what is the use of a son who is neither a learned man nor a devotee of the Lord? If a son is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is just like blind eyes, a source of trouble. A physician may sometimes advise the extrication of such useless eyes from their sockets so that one can be relieved of the constant trouble. Duryodhana was exactly like blind, troubling eyes. He would be a source of great trouble to the family of Dhritarashtra, as foreseen by Vidura. Vidura therefore rightly advised his eldest brother to get rid of this source of trouble. Dhritarashtra was wrongly maintaining such personified offense under the mistaken impression that Duryodhana was a good son, able to liberate his father. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So he's saying that get rid of your son because he's, he's a dosha, offense personified, and he's Purusha Dvid Kṛṣṇa the Vimukho. So Vimukho means, he's envious of Krishna. And then he's saying that, he's the cause of inauspiciousness also. Asavayam. And he's the cause of his inauspiciousness also. So, just give up. But let's see what happens next. So Duryodhana comes on the scene now. Ityuchi vatsatra suyodhanena. See, if you see this word, suyodhanena, so Yudhishthir Maharaj used to call Duryodhan not as Duryodhan, but he used to call Suyodhane. Suyodhan. Okay. Pravidha kopa spurita dharena asat kritah asatkrutah satyaspruhaniya shilah kshatta sakarnanuja sobalena. Priya Tulsiani Mataji, please unmute yourself and read the translation and purport both.
Ji Mataji, Hare Krishna. Translation. While speaking this, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by a respectable person, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was sullen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Kṛṣṇa, his younger brother, and his maternal uncle Shakuni. Purport. It is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry, just as feeding milk to a snake only increasing its venomous poison. Sant Vidura was so honorable that his character was looked up to by all respectable persons, but Duryodhana was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidura. This was due to his bad association with Shakuni, his maternal uncle, as well as with his friend Kṛṣṇa, who always encouraged Duryodhana in his nefarious acts. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, if you see that in this Duryodhana, he was, Sprihanya Silaha. So, he was, he in the sense insulted Vidura, who had desirable qualities. Now, what are these desirable qualities? Any respectful person, respected by different people in the society will have certain qualities, and that is why, because of those qualities, he is actually respected in the society. And Vidura also was a proper politician, like how we have Chanakya, in the recent times we had Chanakya Pandit. So when Vidura was that way, and he used to advise very nicely, but Duryodhana and party used to never take his advices seriously, rather they used to always insult him. So then let's see next what he's saying, that Ka enam atropahuja pajuhava mama dasya sutam yad balineva pushtaha tasmin pratipah parakrutya aste nivarsya tamashu puracha vasanaha. Vrinda, please read the translation and purport both.
Translation. Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. Purport. When getting married, the Kshatriya kings would take on several other youthful girls along with the married princesses. These girls, attendants of the kings, were known as Dasis or attendant mistress. By intimate association with the king, the Dasis would get sons. Such sons were called Dasi Putras. They had no claim to a royal position, but they would get maintenance and other facilities just like Prince. Vidura was the son of such a Dasi, and he was thus not counted amongst the Kshatriyas. King Dhritarashtra was very affectionate towards his younger Dasputra, brother Vidura, and Vidura was a great friend and philosophical advisor to Dhritarashtra. Duryodhan knew very well that Vidura was a great soul and well-wisher, but unfortunately he used strong words to hurt his innocent uncle. Duryodhan not only attacked Vidura's birth, but also called him an infidel because he seemed to support the cause of Yudhishthira, whom Duryodhan considered his enemy. He desired that Vidura be immediately put out of the palace and deprived of all his possessions. If possible, he would have liked him canned until he was left with nothing but his breath. He charged that Vidura was a spy of the Pandavas because he advised King Dhritarashtra in their favor. Such is the situation of the palace life and the intricacies of diplomacy that even a faultless person like Vidura could be charged with something abominable and punished.
Vidura was struck with wonder at such unexpected behavior from his nephew Duryodhana, and before anything actually happened, he decided to leave the palace for good. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vrinda. So, if you see this history of Vidur, Vidur was born through meeting between Vyasadev and Parishrami. This Parishrami was actually Dasi to Ambika and Ambalika. So Ambika first mated with Vyasadev through the niyog process, but kept her eyes closed during the process because his appearance and power frightened Ambika, and that is why she gave birth to the blind Dhritarashtra. And then her sister Ambalika, she followed the same process with Vyasdev, and she knew that no, I have to keep my eyes open, but she was very pale with her fear during that sambhoga or niyoga, whatever it is, and so she gave birth to Pandu, who used to always be sick and pale, and he was not very healthy as such. So then these queens, what they did is they sent their maid Parishrami in their palace, and she behaved very appropriately during the neo process, and then she gave birth to Vidura. So because Vidura's mother was maid or a dasi rather than a queen, so his status was always lower than his two other half brothers, Pandu and Dhritarashtra. So the queens were wives of King Vichitravirya and the grandfather to these Kauravas and Pandavas, who eventually fought with each other. And of course, we know that the climax of Mahabharata was that Bhagavad-gītā was spoken by Kṛṣṇa and all. And then this king Vichitravirya was also the adopted father of Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Okay. And after Kṛṣṇa, Vidura was the most respected, as an advisor to the, by the Pandavas, and on various occasions also Duryodhana's different plots, he used to always make them fail. And even if you see that Lakshagraha was there, Vidura had given an hint. And if you see even Vidura, he had tried to stop Yudhishthir from playing that even dice game, and but he could not really stop. And Vidura was the only one who protested, against this humiliation of Draupadi when she was there in that Kaurava court. So Duryodhana, when he was protesting, when Vidura was protesting, at that point of time, Duryodhana was, he was insulting Vidura, calling him, you're an ungrateful person and get lost from here. So Dhritarashtra moved to, rebook. And Duryodhana was insulting their uncle, but remembering Vidura, saying that a blind man cannot be a king, hold his tongue and insisted, and he reprimanded Duryodhana for insulting the prime minister. So, because that was Vidura's place. So, this is, this incident, Vidura brought up years later when he, severed these ties of Kurus and cited the Pandavas on the Kurukshetra war. So, like Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya and Karna, And Vidura did not have any obligation to Hastinapur or Duryodhana or his family. So, hearing Dhritarashtra not acknowledging that relationship, Vidura, he was, compelled that, okay, I will side with Dharma. I will side with the Pandavas. I will not side you all. And so, if you see, what is Krishna's, view about Vidura? So, Vidura was considered as a Dharmaraj. He was the king of righteousness. And Krishna respected Vidura for his devotion, for people's welfare. And, when Krishna visited Hastinapur as a peace messenger of the Pandavas, he shunned Duryodhana's offer to stay in that royal place. And then, if you all know, that instead of, accepting Duryodhana's invitation, he accepted to go at Vidura's place. Because Vidura was the only neutral person in that particular royal palace of Hastinapur. So, the reason why Krishna stayed in Vidura's house for that night instead of Duryodhana's is that whatever thoughts were running, in Duryodhana's mind, and the difference between them. So, Duryodhana's intention was to, give a lot of luxury and all this to Krishna, and convince him to join this Kaurava side. Because Duryodhana also somewhere knew that Krishna is powerful. So then he said that, but Krishna refused. Krishna knew that even if Vidura is offering me anything, it was present. Krishna knew that Vidura and his wife, whatever they will offer it to me with love and devotion, and they will not have any ulterior motive. Whereas Duryodhana wanted to invite and to give luxury and everything, because he had some, bad intention of taking Krishna on his side. So, if you see, there is a very nice, this about Vidura Niti, and there is a book called, I think, Udyog Parva, where all his recommendations are there. I don't remember too many recommendations, but maybe one or two I just remember that we should not have friendship with the sinful people. We should always encourage learning and transmission of knowledge. And we should never use the, wealth. Sorry, we should never misuse the wealth and either use harsh speech, or not even give cruel punishments to people. And these are some of the nitis. I don't remember specifically all those nitis, but so there are many others also. So this is actually about, Vidura, where he's described as the prime minister of the Kauravas, and who is the paternal uncle of the Pandavas and the Kauravas both. So, if you see that, I remember that His Grace Govind Prabhu talks a lot on Mahabharata. So, when he's speaking about Vidura, he has given an elaborate class on Vidura, which is really very wonderful class, and certain even lessons from Mahabharata that were there, where Vidura is actually counseling his Dhritarashtra, And there are so many things to learn from him. We can learn Vidura's tolerance, his mission to serve, his service attitude, just as he has a vast array of qualities. So if you see how much tolerant Vidura was, because when we say tolerance, the definition of tolerance is that tolerance is that the ability or willingness to tolerate something in a particular, behavioral situation that somebody might not really agree to it. So Vidura, served very much as a close counselor, you can say, to Dhritarashtra. And because Dhritarashtra made many horrible decisions under the influence of this Duryodhana. So while Vidura tried many times to, guide Dhritarashtra, he ignored the advice. And he had to tolerate seeing the suffering of the Pandavas and, Kunti from the side of the Kauravas. So that is why he was so tolerant. And because he's the personification of Dharma, then Vidura's mission was to serve the Supreme. And that was his goal of his life. Vidura very well knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he served Krishna with his wholeheartedness. And every moment he spent in the company of Krishna, he cherished those moments so very dearly. And in those moments, he took the opportunity to serve Lord Krishna. So Vidura served anyone and everyone. And his attitude to serve everyone is so, you can say, admirable, that he served his, brothers, the Pandavas, the Supreme Lord, and just about, how he's serving everyone. So even though there are many people, like Dhritarashtra, they made many wicked decisions also. But in spite of that, Vidura kept on serving Dhritarashtra unconditionally. And that is why we can learn to serve the Lord and all his devotees with that same attitude of, the benevolence that Vidura had. So, so much to learn from Vidura, that is tolerance, his service attitude, and the service attitude played a very big role in how Mahabharat, came out. And certainly many things would have happened differently without, Vidura's influence. So there are so many wonderful lessons we can learn from the life of Vidura, where many places there are, people give a lot of Vidura never sided adharma because he was a pure soul. And that is why when Sri Krishna also, when he displayed that Virat Roop in the assembly, and when he came as a peace messenger, Vidura was one of those very few people like Drona and Bhishma who could actually see that Virat Roop or that majestic form of the Lord. None others could see him for, they were blinded to that divine light, but Vidura was not. So when he was showing the Virat Roop, at that point of time, Vidura very well knew that, okay, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's how, Vidura was always very much remembered for his intelligence, brilliant mind, favoring Dharma always. And he was a very central character in Mahabharata. So this is something about Vidura. Of course, we do know many things about Vidura because many times we've seen the Mahabharata and all, like, so. Yeah, Lakshmi Narayana, yeah, Zee Strinadavi Suni Chena. And Priyanka, you're saying that Mataji, wouldn't that be illegitimate relation? No. In the previous times, this Amba and Ambalika, they were not begetting children only. So then this was suggested by Vyasdev himself, who is the author of Mahabharata himself. So that is not illegitimate because uh, in the material realm, they have the you can say union of what do you say? They have material unions. But when you know spiritual people, because Vyasdev is Shaktavish Avatar, incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So he was not doing it out of fun or he was not enjoying that because he felt it as his duty to actually increase the vansh or the family lineage, and that's why Vyasdev did it as a service to that particular lineage. So that's the history of Vidura, and many other things will also come up. Let's go about unveiling. So स्वयं धनुर्भारि निदयामायं भ्रातुर्पुरुषो मर्मसु तादितोऽपि स इत्थम् अतुल्य भानकर्णबाणे गत ग- गतव्योऽर्थो याद्रुमानयानान्. Yeah, let me just see who's there. Rupa Mataji, please read the translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation. Thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the eternal energy to be supreme. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord is never perturbed by an awkward position created by the external energy of the Lord. In Bhagavad-gītā 3.27, it is stated, Prakritehe kriyamānāni gunaha karmāni
Sarvashah.
sarvashah ahankara vimūಢātma kartāham iti manyate. A conditioned soul is absorbed in material existence under the influence of different modes of external energy. Absorbed in the false ego, he thinks that he is doing everything by himself. The external energy of the Lord, the material nature, is fully under the control of Supreme Lord, and the conditioned soul is fully under the grip of the external energy. Therefore, the conditioned soul is fully under the control of the law of the Lord. But due to illusion only, he thinks himself independent in his activities. Duryodhana was acting under such influence of the external nature, by which he would be vanquished at the ultimate end. He could not accept the sound advice of Vidura, but on the contrary, he insulted that great soul who was the well-wisher of his whole family. Vidura could understand this because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. In spite of being very strongly insulted by Duryodhana's words, Vidura could see that Duryodhana, under the influence of Maya, the external energy, was making progress on the path towards his own ruination. He therefore considered the acts of external energy to be supreme, yet he also saw how the internal energy of the Lord helped him in that particular situation. A devotee is always in a renounced temperament because the worldly attractions can never satisfy him. Vidura was never attracted by the royal palace of his brother. He was always ready to leave the place and devote himself completely to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Now he got the opportunity by the grace of Duryodhana, and instead of being sorry at the strong words of insult, he thanked him from within because it gave him the chance to live alone in a holy place and fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. The word gata vyataha, without being sorry, is significant here because Vidura was relieved from the tribulations which trouble every man entangled in material activities. He therefore thought that there was no need to defend his brother with his bow because his brother was meant for ruination. Thus, he left the palace before Duryodhana could act. Maya, the supreme energy of the Lord, acted here both internally and externally. Hare Krishna. So, Mataji, so Duryodhana didn't send him, so he himself left.
Mata is on mute.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Sometimes this button goes on mute. So, Vidura left before, the war. And that is why he knew that this is a dharma going on. And that is why he knew that I wouldn't be able to face this adharma. And that's why he immediately left from that particular place. And he was no longer interested in those, political affairs of Duryodhana and party. Dhritarashtra also is given so many advices, he's saying that, what do you say? You quit with this son of yours. This son of yours is not actually a good son. He's just going to be, useless for you. But he's not, paying heed to that particular advice of Vidura. So that's where Vidura is actually, what do you say? Vidura leaves that particular palace and then he goes for a pilgrimage. And because he goes for a pilgrimage, he does not know only what has happened on the war front. He does not know what happened on the war front, and but he knew that the Pandavas will be winning. Why? Because Lord Krishna is on their side. So that's how Vidura was able to know. And when he comes back, still he's giving advice to Dhritarashtra. Now, though, at least you should quit home and all. That will be there in the next couple of chapters. Postpone that, like. So okay, let's go ahead.
So, Mataji, Balram and Vidura are the two persons who knew that it is Krishna the Lord, but yet they didn't participate in the war.
Yes. Balram though is Krishna's own brother only. He's an expansion of Krishna himself only, no?
Yes. No, only these two people or any other people also are there who didn't participate in the war, knowing that Lord.
These two people.
Krishna.
Only these two people. Only these two people.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's
Thank you, Mataji.
just give me 1 minute. Where is it? Okay, so then he says further, because if you see where Vidura, Vidura left his brother's palace without actually being even sorry. And that is why he is, just give me 1 minute, okay? I want to go back to that shloka. And that is why he's saying, Gata Vyatoho. And yeah. So what does this mean? He says that without being sorry. Okay, so he's considering these all acts. Vidura very well knows that actually this is the Maya energy of the Lord playing. Vidura understood that this is the influence of the Lord's external energy on Duryodhan, who was heading towards his own ruination. And he also saw how Lord's internal energy was also helping him to engage in the Lord's devotional service. So, Vidura, though Vidura actually is a very highly elevated and pious person, and yet he's thinking that he lost his piety by this association of this Duryodhana. And then Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra both. And he's not fit to associate with the Lord, at all. So therefore, though Krishna was personally present, in the world at that time, Vidura did not approach him directly. But then he decided that he will travel to all the holy places to achieve greater piety in order to advance nearer to the Supreme Lord. So to approach the Supreme Lord, then you need many pious credits. And once you have those credits, then you can, you can approach the Supreme Lord. You will be able to appreciate him. You will never be able to envy him. And you will be able to serve the Supreme Lord with love and affection. So these are some of the, qualities to approach the Supreme Lord. So then further what he does is he's actually traveling to different pilgrimage places. So he says over here that Sanirgataha Kaurava Punyalabho Gajahavyat Tirtha Pada Padane Anava Karamat Punya Chikirshayo Vyam Adhishtito Yani Sahastra Murtihi. Yeah, somebody read this. Anuprabhu, please read the translation and purport.
Translation: by his piety, Vidur achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are the Lord's lotus feet, with a desire to gain a high order of pious life. He traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. Purport: Vidur was undoubtedly a highly elevated and pious soul. Otherwise, he would not have taken his birth in the Kaurav family. To have high parentage, to possess wealth, to be highly learned, and to have great personal beauty are all due to past pious acts. But such pious possessions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in his transcendental loving service. Vidur considered himself less pious, and therefore he decided to travel to all the great places of pilgrimage in the world in order to achieve greater piety and advance nearer to the Lord. At that time, Lord Krishna was personally present in the world, and Vidur could have at once approached him directly. But he did not do so because he was not sufficiently freed from sin. One cannot be 100% devoted to the Lord unless and until he is completely free from all effects of sin. Vidur was conscious that by the association of the diplomatic Drashta and Duryodhana, he had lost his piety and was therefore not fit to associate at once with the Lord. In Bhagavad-gītā 7.28, this is confirmed in the following verse: Yasham tive antagatam papam jnananam punyakarmanam tadvanda moha nirmukta bhajate mandirdevad vrataha. Persons who are sinful asuras like Kamsa and Jarasan cannot think of Lord Krishna's supreme personality of Godhead, the absolute truth. Only those who are pure devotees, those who follow the regulated principles of religious life as prescribed in the scriptures, are able to engage themselves in karma yoga and in jnana yoga, and thereafter, by pure meditation, can understand pure consciousness. When God consciousness is developed, one can take advantage of the association of pure devotees. Chan Mahat Seva Vipraha Punya Tirtan Sevanath. One is able to associate with the Lord even during the existence of this life. Places of pilgrimages are meant for eradicating the sins of the pilgrims, and they are distributed all over the universe just to give facility to all concerned for attaining pure existence and God realization. One should not be satisfied, however, merely by visiting the places of pilgrimage and performing one's prescribed duties. He should be eager to meet the great souls who are already there, engaged in the service of the Lord. In each and every place of pilgrimage, the Lord is present in his various transcendental forms. These forms are called Arka Murtis, or forms of the Lord which can be easily appreciated by the common man. The Lord is transcendental to our mundane senses. He cannot be seen with our present eyes, nor can he be heard with our present ears. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord, or to the proportion that our lives are freed from sins, we can perceive the Lord. But even though we are not free from sins, the Lord is kind enough to allow us the facility of seeing him in his Arka Murtis in the temple. The Lord is all-powerful, and therefore he is able to accept our service by presentation of his Arka form. No one, therefore, should foolishly think that the Arka in the temple to be an idol. Such an Arka Murti is not an idol but the Lord himself, and to the proportion that one is free from sins, he is able to know the significance of the Arka Murti. The guidance of a pure devotee is therefore always required. In the land of Bhartavash, there are many hundreds and thousands of places of pilgrimage distributed all over the country, and by traditional practice, the common man visits such holy places during all seasons of the year. Some of the archetypal representations of the Lord situated in different places of pilgrimage are mentioned herewith. The Lord is present at Mathura, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, as Adikeshava. The Lord is present at Puri, Orisha, as Lord Jagannath, also known as Purushottam. He is present at Allahabad, Prayag, as Bindu Madhav. At Mandara Hill, he is present as Madhusudan. In the Anandaranya, he is known as Vasudeva, Padmanabha, and Janardhan. In Vishnu Kanchi, he is known as Vishnu, and at Mayapur, he is known as Hari. There are millions and billions of such Arka forms of Lord distributed all over the universe. All these Arka Murtis are summarized in Chaitanya Charita Amrit in the following words. Sarvata Prakashatan Bhakti Sukhe Diti Jagate Adharma Nasi Dharma Stapite. The Lord has so distributed himself all over the universe just to give pleasure to the devotees, to give the common man facility to eradicate his sins, and to establish religious principles in the world. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So, a very detailed explanation on how about the Archa Murti form of the Lord. So this is actually Archa Murti. This is pronounced as Cha, Archa Murti. Okay, that way. This is Archa Murti. And how Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in detail about the deity form of the Supreme Lord, that even though when Kamsa and Jarasandh, they were not thinking of the Supreme Lord, and only pure devotees, they can think about the Supreme Lord. And the importance of the places of pilgrimage is given over here. Places of pilgrimage are meant for eradicating the sins of the pilgrims, and they're distributed all over the universe just to give the facility to all concerned for attaining pure existence and God realization. And that is why whenever we go to these places of pilgrimage, we should start finding devotee association more. One should not be satisfied, however, merely by visiting the places of pilgrimage and performing one's prescribed duties. Prescribed duty means you're just, eating, sleeping, and merrymaking. He should be eager to meet the great souls who are already there, engaged in the service of the Lord. And in each and every place of pilgrimage, the Lord is present in his various transcendental forms. So when you serve, these great souls, when you meet these great souls, you will inquire. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena seva upadeksite jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. These jnaninas, they have seen the absolute truth. Tattvadarshina. They have, they have seen the absolute truth. And that is why we try to submissively submit to these tattvadarshis in the dham. Otherwise, if you see, so for example, when I was in Delhi, staying in Delhi, so going to Vrindavan was very easy. just a 4-hour drive, and you reach early morning, you go 3.5-hour drive. And it was very easy. And we used to, morning go and evening come back also. So what we used to do, as soon as, you reach early morning, then you take darshanarti, and then you attend the Bhagavatam class, and then you have prasad, and then move to, all the temples, all the 7 temples. Of course, we were not able to cover all the 7 temples because of the geographical locations. But then we used to go over there quickly, and we used to come back. But then when we used to go to this temple, Banke Bihari temple, we used to see that many, people from, very much nearby places to Vrindavan, they also used to come. They used to eat over there, just bang opposite the Banke Bihari temple. If you'll have been over there, is chaat papdi, all, those stalls, lassi, buttermilk, and all those hot cakes items were there. So they used to think that going to a pilgrimage is just, you just bow down to the Lord with your joint hands, you eat lassi, you drink lassi, you eat chaat papdi, golgappa, and yeah, you come back, and you have, it's just like an outing. And so when we used to go, at least when I used to go with a couple of group of people or something like that, so we used to actually, in the afternoons, we used to try to see out, some nice devotee. You can give association for 1 or 2 hour personal meeting. So I remember I used to generally meet Her Grace Yashoda Mai Mataji, because she has been into actually teaching and designing of many courses into ISKCON, and she was very good at giving Bhagavad-gītā and Bhagavatam overviews. She was very expert in. So I used to many times attend even her classes. Like sometimes on Mondays I used to attend. Then Monday morning I used to go, and evening I used to come back. Then Thursday again morning I used to go, and evening I used to come back. Like that I used to make 2 trips. I specifically remember for 6 months I did this trip just to learn from her those overviews, because she used to take those special classes over there from Delhi to Vrindavan. I used to travel. So I found I could connect to her very easily. Very easily I was able to connect with her, because of course she was an educationist, and even I had this inclination of teaching. I had been into this teaching profession, so I used to feel that I wanted to learn from her. And then I found out Her Grace Narayani Mataji, Srila Prabhupada's disciple. I found out Her Grace Prashanta Mataji also. So all these, those who are staying in the Dham, they are no less than, great souls. Of course, there were sannyasis also, but we used to hear them in the Bhagavatam class, and then in the evening Bhagavad-gītā class also was there. So we used to attend this Bhagavad-gītā class. After attending Bhagavad-gītā class, at around 6:30, quarter to 7, we used to make a move. And by like maybe 10:30, 11, we were back home, like that way. So going to the places of pilgrimages, we meet the greatest souls. We learn from them. We understand certain things that are not understandable very easily sitting at the comfort of our own home. So at least sometimes we should visit the holy places. Maybe once in a year, at least, out of our busy schedules, we should visit these dhams and take association of the devotees. Okay, so just let's go next. So what I'll do is we'll halt over here, because I have a lot many things to actually say for text number 14, 15 and 16, which actually I just remembered right now that I should have said those, but I'm flipping certain pages from my Bhagavatam and I've not actually covered those points. So maybe I'll cover those tomorrow. So dear devotees, thank you so much for your wonderful association in reading the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And the third canto, I'm going to really dive deep into it. I was planning actually to have Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries also, but because of my own, you can say, disability, of my own lack of understanding with his commentaries, maybe we'll just stick around to Srila Prabhupada's puppets only, because Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has also written some nice commentaries on the Bhagavatam cantos. So that way. So dear devotees, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Guruji. Ram Krishna.
Dhanat.